Hey everybody, this is Rachel. So if you've watched a couple of my previous videos, I am half English. My mom was from Muswell Hill, which is a suburb of London. It's in the north. And I've kept silent for a little bit regarding Prince Harry and the near catastrophic car chase. So I did actually want to address that, because as somebody who lived through the Princess Diana car crash and remembers it like it happened yesterday, it was actually very, very troubling to me. I remember the day Diana died very, very clearly. I was 14 years old. I was sitting in my bedroom and I was doing my math homework. And I even remember the detail of those hot neon colored jelly ink pens? Well, I was using those to do my homework, which was probably not the smartest idea, but I was also 14. And my mom came into my room all aflutter and was basically like, "You need to get out into the living room. Princess Diana's been in an accident." And we just sat down and we watched the news for hours on what was going on. And it was truly, truly shocking to see this. And for me, I think I had the same memory, emblazoned in my head as people that felt the way about the Challenger explosion or the assassination of JFK. These are things that stay with you and stay in your mind. And that's how I really felt about the situation. So purely hearing that they had been involved in a serious car chase immediately rang alarm bells for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. This is history repeating itself. Maybe I've been too hard on them. But then I heard it was in New York City, and the alarm bells started ringing for me. I've been to New York City several times. I think about 4 times I've been there. And even from my brief little trips there, and any movie you've ever seen, it is gridlock in that city. You cannot go above 15 miles an hour, and that's being generous. I was last in the city actually in January trying to get to an off-Broadway show, and I was in a vehicle, and the traffic was crazy. There is literally no way that in downtown Manhattan you can drive at 80 miles an hour. And so that's what kind of piqued to me. This doesn't seem right. And then I heard that they were on the FDR. Well, I had just been on the FDR, in January. So I thought to myself, well, depending upon what part of FDR you're on, you're still not going to be able to go that fast, because it is a very heavily trafficked highway system. So again, that still really didn't ring true to me. And so I was skeptical, right? And a lot of it was because of what they were claiming, but also just kind of their history of exaggerating things or not being fully open about what they're saying. So all that kind of rang these alarm bells. And then lo and behold, we find out that the NYPD is like, no, it didn't happen. Sure, it was chaotic, and I totally believe that. I absolutely believe it was chaotic. I mean, we've seen pictures of the different paparazzi that were out there taking pictures as they exited the building. I get it. And I understand that that can be unsettling for some people, especially Harry. I get it. And then, of course, you have the mayor of New York himself at a press conference who was like, yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. And this man is a former NYPD officer, so he knows what's up. It wasn't like, this is somebody who just is creating opinions like me. This is a person who has worked in the city as a police officer, now helps run the city, and knows what it can and cannot offer. And it is just completely ridiculous that this is going on. But this is what is really bothersome the most to me about this. Now, I did read most of Spare. And as I started reading Spare, I realized that this book was not about Harry, it was about Diana. This young man has built his entire life on her legacy and what her death, not her life, her death has done to him. And I understand grief. I have lost my mother as well, and it is hard. And I can only imagine how losing your mother at a tender age. I think he was, what, like 11, 10, maybe 12? What that does to you, and that is hard. And he has my sympathy for that completely. I can only imagine what a deep cut that is. But you cannot live your life thinking and memorializing the worst day of that person's life. Because that person, Diana, who died, was so much more than her death. And that goes for anybody who's passed away, right? They are more than their death. And to be stuck totally on that death portion and not looking at their life and the things that they did and what they were and what was wonderful about them, it traps you. And that, I think, is what has happened to Harry. He is not honoring her life. He is honoring, and in this situation, I believe he is dishonoring her death. Because I think to myself, everybody knows what happened to Diana. It's not a secret. But when you are using words and phraseology that makes everybody immediately go to the death of Diana, it is inflammatory. And I think it's wrong. I think it is using Diana's death for your own personal gain. And I also think to myself, what about William? What must William think right now that Harry and Meghan are disrespecting his mother's death? If I were William, I would be infuriated, even more so than he already is. But maybe he doesn't care anymore. Maybe he is just resigned to the fact that his brother and sister-in-law are going to have antic after antic after antic. And there's nothing he can do about it. And so he's just washed his hands of them and try to pretend like they don't even exist, that the things that they do don't even matter to him. And if he's able to do that, in some respects, I actually congratulate him for that. But I don't know. But I would feel so angry and so disrespected. And I wonder if William does as well, because it is disrespecting his mother's memory, not her legacy, her memory. And using things like her death, car chase examples, I'm sure that those things are also very inflammatory for William. I'm sure it must be. And for Harry to use it for his own personal gain, I think can only be angering and heartbreaking for William, and I wouldn't blame him. And of course, we'll never know because, as we're aware, the royals don't really comment on anything, which is probably for the best. But it still doesn't mean that inquiring minds don't want to know. And maybe at some point there'll be a book somebody writes and somebody leaks something so we actually know how William genuinely felt about this little escapade. And it just bothers me due to the disrespect level. That's what bothers me here more than anything else. So, as you can probably tell, I'm not a big fan of Harry or Meghan. And I would be happy if they just kind of disappeared. So, as South Park has said, the worldwide privacy tour, hopefully it's concluded and they will just go back to Montecito and stay there. Or maybe, as Harry is alleged to be doing, staying in various hotels because there's likely trouble in paradise. Because let's be real, a relationship that the basis of it is anger, right? If you think about it, the public relationship that they have is based on anger, taking out their feelings on the royal family, on the press. Everything is anger. It's not love. And not to say that they don't love each other, but you need to have a solid foundation based on love and not on anger. And we don't see anything outwardly loving. We just see anger. And obviously we're not in their private lives. We don't know what goes on every day. And that's okay. We're not supposed to, right? It's their private lives. But I do think that their marriage is not forever. I do think that they will ultimately divorce. And the thing that really bothers me about that is she'll get to keep all the jewelry, all of Diana's beautiful jewelry. And, you know, if it was given to Lilibet, I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a real problem with that woman keeping Diana's jewelry because she doesn't deserve it. As much as she wants to portray and pretend that she is Princess Diana, she is no Princess Diana. And Princess Diana had her own faults. She did. She was by no means this perfect person. She was human like all of us and had faults and her own issues. But I think at the core of things, she was a good woman, a caring woman. And I don't really get that vibe from Meghan. I never have. And I don't know, it bothers me. It bothers me very much. And so I'm keeping my eyes peeled on the Meghan and Harry situation and what goes on, and if there's going to be any more fallout from this car chase, which I wouldn't really be surprised by. I do wonder when the paparazzi company is going to release the photos. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, I don't know. So I'd be curious to see what they have if they do release them. I would be interested to see if there's going to be some kind of additional Netflix special that has this, or an Oprah interview or a Gayle King interview. There are rumblings that Gayle King is trying to get Meghan on her new talk show with Charles Barkley. And I can only imagine Gayle King and Charles Barkley interviewing Meghan Markle. That just sounds like a cluster you-know-what. It doesn't sound like it would be overly professional. I have no problem with Gayle King. I think actually Gayle King is very professional. Her interview with R. Kelly was stellar. I mean, it was absolutely one of the best interviews with somebody controversial like that I think you could ever see. She handled it the right way. But Charles Barkley, come on. I mean, come on. You know, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, so keep it here if you're interested in more of what I have to say. I want to hear what you have to say, so go ahead and comment down below, leave me a message, and I'll see you next time. Bye.